So I'm a bit high today, so just pardon me if I'm a bit slow in terms of my speech. Today I wanted to do some good old power scaling, both with the present and past Yonko. So I have Whitebeard, and before we jump into that, let's. Oh, by the way, I'm also going to do some math because I've been thinking a bit more about what a person means when he says something to the extent of, let's say a person in the community makes a statement like so, right? Shanks would defeat Kaido, and there are a few ways you can think about this. Most people would say, does he mean he would kill Kaido? Uh, I don't know, paralyze, put down. I guess put down is the most common way Oda approaches a character's defeat. Unlike other manga where deaths are kind of nonchalant, right? They happen almost every other week. Deaths in One Piece are rare, and I kind of prefer that. At first, I was a bit frustrated because I felt like not having enough deaths would not close chapters in the protagonist's journey, right? Like there's some previous past or previous nemesis that's always lulling in the background, ready to kind of interfere. Whereas if the enemy is uh, defeated to the point where they just evaporate from existence, then that would be a much more satisfying close. But I understand why deaths are not common because it makes the actual deaths in One Piece, even though it may be small, sudden deaths, it makes the deaths much more heavier, right? It adds more weight to the death, such as Ace. Whereas I can imagine if every other character passes away, or is just uh, I don't know, like just taken out of the story, then it wouldn't make a character's defeat in terms of his actual death as emotional or strong. So yeah, let's carry on. I guess another one would be surrender. Although I really don't see any Yonko surrendering, that would be maybe Shanks for the good of someone else. Like I can see him surrendering because at that point of time it was a more it was a wiser and smarter move to surrender. But I don't really see any other Yonko surrendering at all. All right. So, but yeah, that would be surprising. I mean, I'm just thinking right now, what if Kaido surrenders, and that would make Luffy's win even more like insane. I mean, Luffy taking Kaido's head would be crazy, but Luffy getting Kaido to surrender and kind of a pledge. Okay, that's a bit. Okay, in this channel we invite any fringe theory, any crazy thought, right? So I'm just imagining Kaido saying sorry. Yeah, nah, that's crazy. All right, so let's rank these guys, and I'm gonna do some math. I'm not gonna spend too much time on the ranking. I'm just gonna spend much more time about what it means to be stronger, right? And I mean this comes full circle to this little practice here, because I wanted to find out what a person actually means when they say that their favorite character, let's say Blackbeard, is stronger than Big Mom. Um, I found that it's not so simple as just saying, oh, Blackbeard would win Big Mom every single time, right? And I've been thinking, what if Oda, when he does power scaling, what if he thinks about it in this manner, which I'm gonna show you. What if he doesn't think about it in terms of, because if you just say Shanks would kill Kaido or Blackbeard would defeat Big Mom, it seems almost too simplistic. Yeah, right. I mean, I'm not trying to be pedantic, but it seems that that is such a it's like too bare. Like it doesn't really, because for me, I've seen Oda plan all these fights and story arcs, and I feel that and in terms of the character's strength is so arcane and big, like not people are still fighting over who's the strongest, right? And I think the reason why we can say that, I mean, unlike, let's say, I don't know, some other manga I've read where the strongest character is very obviously the strongest, right? And there's no one really stronger. I mean, even the person that is next in line that displays some strength, they would also lose out eventually. Like you kind of have um, a very strong based, a very man, how do I explain this? It's like your logical foundation about a person's power in a manga could be very opaque, right? Like I don't think anyone seriously thinks, I mean, that seriously believes that they know how strong each Yonko is. Yeah, I mean, if you were to bet them, like, I don't know, their life, that that Blackbeard is stronger than Kaido, and if it wasn't the case, like if Oda, and we could ask Oda this, and then if Oda replies, "Oh, Kaido is actually stronger than Blackbeard," would anyone take that bet? I don't think anyone would, right? So putting this together, sorry, I'm digressing. Shanks, I would say, is number one. Yep. And look, I'm not gonna explain why I think um, each person is at that position. I'm just gonna jump into what I mean when I say they're stronger. So that's where the math comes in. All right, you'll look, you'll understand later. So, anyways, I was doing Whitebeard number two, and then I would do Big Mom number four. Okay, so this is where it gets tricky, because when I'm ranking, because look, they all have different prime periods, right? Like the Whitebeard that was saving Ace or attempting to save Ace, he was already weak, right? We have seen him being tied up to tubes before uh, traveling to save Ace and before his departure. But yeah, so I mean, would I use that Whitebeard to pit him against the Shanks that I know? So I think the current Shanks is still in his prime, but Whitebeard wasn't when we saw him or when we last saw him. So yeah, it's tough. I'm gonna go with Whitebeard. Okay, look, how about this? Let's just cancel this. And another complication arises when you do this scaling and you think Whitebeard, but what about Blackbeard? Would you use the same Blackbeard that met Whitebeard, or would you use a different Blackbeard, like the current BB now? Let's just use BB, right? So WB and BB, they met when um, when Whitebeard was going to save Ace, right? But I would consider the current BB way stronger. However, to be honest, no one really knows the. I don't think anyone honestly, legitimately knows how strong or weak Blackbeard is. Like, I can see Blackbeard being stronger than Kaido. I can even see him being weaker than Kaido. So he's a wild card. He's a wild card. Um, but you know what? Let's just carry on. We will go. I think I'll do this. Whitebeard and then post Whitebeard. Because I need to really. It would just be wrong to loop in Blackbeard during this arc. Because okay, so during this time when WB was saying with Ace, I think all these four. Let's just do this number three. I think that all these four were pretty much on par. Yeah, I think these four would be on par. Why? Why? Because well, they're the Yonko. They all have equal power, so no one really kind of intrudes into another person's territory. If they weren't on par, they would just be out of the Yonko, or there would be another level above the Yonko, and their territories would be easily captured, right? So it makes sense that they're all on par, but post Whitebeard's death, I still think Shanks is strongest. Big Mom is. This is a tough one. Yeah, I'll leave him there. Yeah, because I really don't know how strong BB is. We know that he has two powers. He can absorb more. He has darkness, nothingness, which is pretty scary. And we have yeah, Whitebeard's power. But the thing is that having Whitebeard's power doesn't automatically mean you can wield it with the same strength as Grams, right? Probably he has Whitebeard's power, but he's a weak user of the power. So I think that having a lot of powers isn't necessarily good. Like it could be the case that having more powers means that you have to spread your energy across different powers, which would deem it less effective, right? I mean, it could be the case. I'm not saying it is, which would, I don't know, like that would make sense to me, right? Where nurturing one devil fruit to be the best it can be in terms of its potential would be much better than wielding 3 to 4 devil fruits and just being subpar. And I think that it takes time to actually um, develop a devil fruit. Like a devil fruit is a gift that you can use. Um, I mean, it's a powerful fruit, right? But it doesn't mean that a powerful fruit is powerful in the hands of the user. Right. So I honestly believe that I actually believe that any devil fruit is has its own strength and weaknesses, and every person in One Piece. Okay, let me put this way. Every devil fruit in One Piece has a potential to be the Pirate King's devil fruit. All right. Yeah. So I would say this: like every fruit in One Piece has the potential to be a Pirate King's devil fruit. Right. That's really what I think. Right. So it's not like the devil fruit doesn't choose the Pirate King. The Pirate King chooses the devil fruit, but of course, a more legendary or a stronger devil fruit or a devil fruit that's infamous for whatever reason. Like recently, we've seen with Luffy. Luffy's devil fruit could be something special, but I still maintain that um, if let's just say, look, we don't really know where One Piece is going right now, but let's just say One Piece has this Destiny storyline, which seems about right, right? I mean, we have Luffy, D Luffy, and then they all have the D in the middle. So it seems that there's some kind of deterministic um, destiny narrative, which is not surprising, right? We always see um, a similar narrative in terms of other manga. Hold up a second. I just had a thought. One Piece. Yeah, yeah, that's about right. Now, I would then say that Haki. In terms of Haki, yeah. I mean, Haki, I think is required. Is a requirement to be the Pirate King. But the Devil Fruit is not. So right off the bat, I will make these two statements. I think these are the two. These are my two theories of power. All right. So every fruit in One Piece has the potential to be. I think it's pretty simple. Nothing really surprising. Um, Now let's do some math. Okay, before that, I just wanted to. Alright, I think you guys aren't going to focus until I tell you why, but I'm not going to go through the whole list. Um, But look, I'll just tell you why I think Shanks is the strongest. Let's just do that, all right? So for me, the strength of a character comes first and foremost from the limitations of his haki and the okay, that's pretty much the same. I'm just trying to think in terms of torque. Like, so I would say, in terms of haki, I am just visualizing there are two different parameters, right? So in terms of haki, I would say that's the torque, which is how fast um, the highest potential haki can be reached. I mean, so in this, I don't know, like in this, let me just try to think. Okay, so let's just say Shanks, his haki is a level 10. That's what I think. For him to go to 1 to 10, it takes a short while. 1 to 10. It takes maybe, I don't know, 5 seconds, right? Whereas Luffy, I think Luffy's haki is a level. He's pretty high. I mean, Shanks is 10, but he's definitely not. Insofar as the last chapter, I don't think Luffy's haki is as strong as Kaido's yet. So I would say it's a level. Man, let's go level 8, 7 or 8, right? Now I'm just talking about haki, okay? Because there are other components or variables that might affect fight's outcome, like the Devil Fruits awakening, teammates, so on and so forth. But I would say, yeah, let's just stick at level 8, and his from 1 to 8. Gosh, okay, 1 to 8. Let's say he has to take about 5 minutes, because I think haki builds. So in terms of his torque, I think he is the highest, and in terms of his bandwidth, so bandwidth to me is how long he can sustain this haki level. And then I would say the final component would be range. This simply means 1 to 10. So like when we first saw Luffy exhibit some haki. Okay, so Luffy's a bit hard. Luffy's a wild card, because I was saying when he was gonna rescue Ace, he did have some haki, right? When his head stopped before they cut off Ace's head. And that is a strong haki, because it kind of put down a lot of soldiers, but the stronger characters were not influenced by his haki. So I would say that's a level 2 to 4, maybe 2, right? But now I think it's a level 8, 7 or 8. And so I think the haki is the main ingredient that makes a character strong. I really think that's the case. Like Devil Fruit is just a complementary kind of thing. Like if you have haki and you can wield a sword, you have good sword play, you could be very strong, like Mihawk, Zoro, Shanks. But if you don't really, or Roger, right? But if you have a good Devil Fruit, and the haki, you can be strong as well. But if you have a very good Devil Fruit, but you have no haki, or like your haki levels are 3 or 4, you would lose to a person who has, a level 8 haki. That seems quite like common sense, but I have talked to people that believe that haki is the complementary one. That haki is just a secondary, it's just secondary to the primary core, which is the Devil Fruit. And some people think awakening is the most strongest thing, which that's the minority, I think. I really haven't heard much people say that. So that's how I think about haki. And in terms of these 3, I would say Shanks has mastered all of them. All right. The other reasons why I think so, Okay, the other reasons why I think Shanks, for example, is stronger than Kaido. Number one, he stopped Kaido from um, interfering with WB's um, mission, right, to save Ace. Now, most of you would say that that doesn't seem very like a good reason. I think it is. I think it is because okay, first, I think all the four Yonko during this period would always want to one up one another. They would always find ways to defeat one another because um, disrupting the balance of the Yonko, the four, would make one Yonko just naturally stronger, right? They have more territory, they have more people that bow to their will, that fight for them, and numbers are important. Like if you see the latest arc, Oda keeps on mentioning numbers, right? Army numbers. So it's not just like because I think he wants to um, re not refocus, but more to like he wants to reshape the mentality that One Piece is just one main pirate against one main pirate, right? Like LeBron versus Chris Paul, something like that. But there are other team members that play a vital secondary role that if they weren't in existence, these Yonko wouldn't be where they are, right? I mean, you can see why WB is saying family, Shanks, he's very close to his teammates. Kaido, he holds competitions where the Yonko fight, where his sorry, where the Flying Six, can fight one another for a stronger position, and he even pits his top lieutenants against themselves. So team is very important, despite us focusing mainly on the stars for the most part. But yeah, that's why I think Shanks is stronger than Kaido. Kaido wanted to topple Whitebeard, and he had a very strong opportunity. I think they really calculate the opportunity to kill one another. Like if it takes too much resources and it's like a 50-50 bet, they would not go against one another because it would just be a waste of resources. They would lose the team. They would suffer a lot of injuries that were unnecessary, right? So they all during the Whitebeard's time, they were all pretty much on par with their own territory, their own land, their own influence, and no one really stepped on each other's toes, which will change over here. So I think that's why Shanks would not easily defeat Kaido. He would definitely be injured. I even think to the point of, I wouldn't say near death, but yeah, he would be badly injured. Near death, probably if he were to fight Whitebeard. But Kaido, he would win Kaido, and I'll go into the details why. So that's where the math comes in. But anyway, so I think Kaido really wanted, and he really could see a way to defeat Whitebeard because he was sick, he was old, and he was distracted, right? Because of, and probably, I don't know, like having low morale because Ace was captured. Ace was maybe one of his top fighters, and with Ace gone, because Ace did really one time at one point of time go against Kaido, right? So maybe Kaido felt that Ace with Whitebeard and along with Marco, those were the high risk opponents. But with Ace being held down with like the handcuffs, he would just have to go against Whitebeard, and Whitebeard had his own issues to deal with, which were the government and yeah, the Shikibukai, right? So I think Kaido was thinking, this is the only time I'm gonna defeat WB, and I gotta do it now. And he let go of that opportunity because of Shanks. So that to me, like, here's the thing: when Shanks came to the and okay, let's think about this, right? When Shanks arrived, right, he didn't have any scratch. So it wasn't like Kaido kind of like, I don't know, sized him up and said, hey, like, Shanks, you're in my way, get lost. Shanks said no. Kaido starts fighting, starts punching, right? Haki displays, whatever. But no, I don't think that happened. I think Kaido just wasn't happy and he probably stood his ground for a while, but Shanks said, no, Shanks took out his sword. He says, you want to go? And Kaido says, nah, I don't want that, right? So he went back, and it makes sense because Shanks arrived with fully intact, all his crew members were smiling confidently. You didn't see a bead of sweat. None of the ship was wrecked. All their clothes were intact. No scars, no torn capes, whatever, right? So I think that Kaido really is Kaido really can't do much against Shanks. I mean, he would definitely pummel him and cause Shanks to probably have scars, more scars, but I don't think he's beating Shanks. So that's why to me, the first and the fourth has to have a bit of a wider differentiation, right? The strength spread has to be wider. I mean, naturally between Shanks and Kaido for me to rank them one and four. So that's why I think is the case because I've never seen Kaido with all his power and might oppose or even dare to start a fight with Shanks. Now you may say, well, if Shanks is so strong, why doesn't he just take over Kaido? And here's the thing, which makes sense because okay, if Kaido were number one, I honestly think Kaido would, and Shanks were number four. I honestly think Kaido would constantly just show up at Shanks, at the island that Shanks lives in, and just try to take him down, right? But in this manner, where Shanks is number one and Kaido is number four, it makes sense because Shanks is not the guy that, I mean, he's not the sort of character that goes out looking for trouble. Every time you've seen him, like there is a reason why Oda draws a person in a different light, right? Remember there was one scene, I forgot which episode, because I usually read the manga more, um, where everyone was looking through the four Yonko, right? And all the three Yonko, Whitebeard, or I think even Blackbeard was in, I'm not sure, but the other Yonko besides Shanks were all in dark and gritty backgrounds, and then Shanks was like enjoying his pina colada on an island, right? And whenever we see Shanks, right, he's always smiling, he's very joyful. Sure, he gets angry, but it's not often the case. Whereas in terms of the other Yonko, we often see them in a very um, eerie and very kind of what's the word? Like a very menacing light, right? And so yeah, I think Shanks is number one because he doesn't find trouble. He's just happy getting drunk and partying. Um, and he could if he wanted to, but maybe again it's too high of a risk because he could maybe take down Kaido, but he just doesn't feel the motivation, I think. And he's just happy having these four powers. Like I honestly think he has very close relationships to the world government. And I have this theory that the four Yonko during Whitebeard's time was maintained. Like they like the four Yonko to be there because each person has his own powers. And Shanks is powerful, but he could disrupt this power equilibrium. But he just decided not to because that's not in his nature, right? I mean, if Kaido or Big Mom were number one, like even there was a episode, right, where Big Mom says if not for an event she would have become Pirate King. So I think these two are the weakest because of other reasons which I'll cite in probably another video. But why they two are the weakest would also make sense because if they were the strongest, I think they would easily go and like just bomb Shanks, the home of Shanks, and just take him over easily. But Shanks would be number one because well he doesn't feel the need to compete. I think he's a very calm, chill character, which also is the reason why I think Mihawk is the strongest Shikibukai. He is a one-man band with no team, no allies, and he can traverse the seas by himself. And he can traverse very dangerous seas, right? I mean, just imagine Luffy. He usually, I mean, he can take down a Sea King, or Sea Monster, but he usually has help from like Sanji, right? Because he wants to cook the fish as well. But I'm just imagining Mihawk. He goes against any team, anyone that comes and is unfortunate enough to cross his path, and he does it alone. Like, sure, he has the zombie girl, but I think in terms of fighting, I've never seen Mihawk ask for help. So, and they both have the same kind of qualities, right? Where they don't really want smoke, They just fight whoever. They fight because it's either boring, like for Mihawk, he got bored, so he wanted to chase Don Krieg. But yeah, I just think the quietest characters are the strongest. Except for Luffy. Yeah, Luffy is strong, but he always says he's strong. Yeah, Luffy's like LeBron. Yeah, Luffy's like LeBron in the sense that he says that I'll be the greatest, while as Shanks is probably Michael Jordan. Like he just does his thing. All right, so let's talk about the math now. Um, Let me try to picture this in my head. So when I think about a person defeating another character, let's just use Luffy. Let's just use Luffy. Sorry, let's just use Shanks versus Kaido for now. Now, most of the time when people say Shanks would kill, let's just go with this. All right, I know you guys may not agree, but let's just go with the example, and you can apply it to your own power skill. Right. So I'm just like laying out the math that I'm thinking about, which is a bit fringe, but in this channel we welcome any fringe or weird theory. Yeah, everything's welcome here. So Shanks versus Kaido. The way I think about it, most people would say, well, 1 versus 1, Shanks win. Shanks would win, right? Shanks would win. Now, I'm thinking about it in a different way. So, I'm thinking about it in terms of in a 10B match, who would win the most rounds? So something like boxing, right? Or even, hold up. So let me get back to the analogy later. Who win the most rounds and what percent of health would they be left with? All right. Hold up a second. All right. Sorry, I was just thinking how to lay it out. So instead of just thinking in a very simple form, like, okay, if Shanks were to meet Kaido today, he would defeat him. I'm thinking, what if we see it um, in a different framework, right? And the framework I want to use is the multiple battle framework. Okay, that's not a real term, but just go with it. So I'm thinking if okay, how do I say this? Let's say that a multiverse exists. A multiverse exists, right? Multiverse exists, and there were 10 universes of One Piece. How many times do you think X would win Y in each universe? All right, now let me try to explain what I just wrote. It seems self-explanatory to me, but let me just give it a go. So what I want to do is instead of just seeing instead of just saying, oh, Shanks is stronger than Kaido, right? That is a bit arcane and vague. Like, what do you mean, like stronger? Like, would you say then that if Shanks defeats Kaido, he would defeat him easily? Then most people would say no. He would take a while, right? He would take a lot of effort. But even then, I find that people have this argument about who's stronger, but they don't really. Even when we agree that someone is stronger than another person, we have disagreement about how strong, right? So someone could tell you, oh, look, I think Shanks will defeat Kaido and he will be left with 20% health. Now, to you, that would seem really strange, right? Maybe if you think Kaido's way stronger, you would say, nah, he will be left with probably 5%. Now, that is a thing. I mean, that to me makes a big difference, right? If I put two boxers in the ring, and one boxer knocks the other boxer out with not even a scratch on his face, like, right? Not even a scratch. I would say that that boxer is really strong. I mean, he's so good that he can even exit the ring without any bruises or scratches. That to me is a way stronger boxer compared to if you were to tell me that same boxer fought another guy and he was left like heaving and gasping for air. He was all bloodied. He has a broken ear, a broken thumb, a broken toe. His tongue is cut. He's blind in one eye. You know, he has to walk in crutches for the next 5 years. But he defeated the other boxer. I would say that that boxer is stronger, but not much stronger. You get where I'm going? So now you combine that then with the multiverse, where what I want to say is that okay, these two boxers, if I were to redo the fight, that means okay, in universe number one, A fights B, and then he fights B again for the first time in another universe. Now you would probably say that it doesn't make a difference, right? A would always win B, but I don't think so. I think that in battle mode, there are a lot of variables out of the opponent's control, right? I think most people would agree with that. So, sure, you have your own team, your powers, your devil fruit, your haki, your awakening, your weapons, your size, right? Your agility, your speed, whatever the case may be, right? Your intuition, but no battle goes determined. I mean, if you ask any boxer right now, right, like that has won other boxers in the past, and you ask them, hey, you know what, you want to redo the fight, and would you say that that fight will go as swimmingly smooth or unwell as the first fight? I don't think the boxer would say, yeah, it will go exactly. I mean, sure they would say it because I mean they have to be confident and believe in themselves, but I don't think anyone would say that yes, the fight would go exactly as planned because you can see this right whenever someone loses in a match. It can be NBA or boxing. Let's just go with these two. Some people would say that in another scenario, in a different world, the Suns would have lost, right? Some people would say in another scenario, in another world, they can really see the Lakers and Clippers vying for the conference, right? They could see that. They could see the Clippers or Lakers going to the final. If you ask people, I mean, if you ask the fans, they will say that. But even if you just ask like objective fans that just like the game without any allegiance to a team, they would say that. I mean, if you ask them, hey, I mean, would you say very confidently that the Suns would always be in the finals? Most people would say no. I mean, in another universe, in a different injury, because like in the battle mode, right? There's so many variables, right, that can go right or wrong that are out of your control, right? A team member could get sick or get hurt. You could get hurt. Just the way you fall, maybe. I mean, maybe in another universe, Luffy would miss. I don't know, right? He could miss Doflamingo, or maybe in another universe, Kaido would swing and Luffy would fall in a bad manner that would, I don't know, like hurt his back. He cannot walk as well. But in another universe, he just fell against his shoulder and it was just a scrap, right? Or a rock fell on him. Like there's just too many. I don't know what's the word. Like there's just too many ways a battle can go. So I want to say out of 10, I mean, we can use any number, but out of 10 times, how often do you think your character, your favorite character, would win over the other one? Yeah. So I'm not sure if I'm making myself, probably not, but let's just run with the numbers, right? And maybe you'll see it. So what I want to say is, okay, let's do it here. So what I want to say is this. Let's just use Shanks and Kaido for now. Alright? Let's just do that. So, in a 10 universe round, 10 round battle, let's just call it 10 round battle. Alright? So in a 10 round battle, I think that Shanks would win 7 out of 10, and he will lose 3. So You know what? Yeah, yeah, that's about right. Yeah, I was gonna say 8, but let's just do this. So when I say Shanks is stronger than Kaido, I am not saying that every time Shanks fights Kaido, he would win. I mean that's a bit too comical. I know it's comic, but I think real life just doesn't go that way, right? I mean, if I pit two very strong boxes or two very strong teams, like let's just say Clippers versus Lakers, in a 10 round battle, like when a person says, "Oh, okay, Lakers are stronger than Clippers," I don't think they mean because most people would just say in a 1 round battle who will win, right? Because that's how we often think. That's the easiest way to think. But I think let's think about it in terms of rounds, right? I don't think anyone would say that the Lakers would win Clippers 10 out of 10 rounds. Unless you're a hardcore fan, sure. But people take bets, right? Even when we lay down our bets, we say, hey, you know what? Lakers in 5, Lakers in 3, Lakers in 4. We don't say, oh, Lakers. I mean, not everyone goes Lakers in 3 or 4. They don't. There's usually a spread of bets, and the way I see it, that's how power scaling truly works. It's not such a simplistic way of just saying Shanks would defeat Kaido. That's it. It would mean that over a couple of rounds, where do you see Shanks landing versus Kaido, right? Right? I mean, even when we're betting with like football games or basketball games, we often say, hey, you know what? I'll give this team 20 points above your team. And what that means is that not that the team goes out and completely obliterates the other team and the other team scores no points, right? You give the other team some points, which seems fair, seems rational, unless of course the team is just like junior league or high school. Like Shanks would easily defeat Usopp, right? 10 out of 10 times. That's fine. But when a character is really strong and almost on par, I would say it's unfair to just say the like Shanks would kill off Kaido 10 out of 10 times. So I would say he would win 7 times and he would lose 3 of those times. And Kaido would win 3 and lose 7, right? And then on top of that, I'm gonna say, well, when he wins, how much health has he left? Because if he wins 7 out of 10 times and Shanks is left with 100% energy bar, right? If you think about it in terms of those like games like Tekken or Street Fighter where they have health bars, so that's how I'm thinking about it. If you say he wins 7 out of 10 times, 7 out of 10 times, and he's left with 100%, that is crazy to me, right? And when he loses, he negative. You know what? That doesn't work. Okay, so in terms of losing, I would say how much the opponent has left. So when he wins, okay, let's just use a more. I'm gonna take off this 100%. So when he wins, I would say Shanks wins with 10% left against Kaido, just barely. All right, but some people may say no, it's 1%. Some people say it's 20. I'm gonna go 10 because I think he would win over Whitebeard with barely 2% because they all. I think those two are really close. So I think you kind of get where I'm going with this. So Whitebeard, I think he would win 5 out of 10 times. 5 out of 10 times. He will lose 5. And Whitebeard, because Whitebeard is stronger than Kaido and closer to Shanks, he would be left with only, honestly, I would say only 2%. It would be really close. Like how, yeah, I think 1 to 2%. Yeah, it would be really close. Hmm. Let me just think about Big Mom for a while. I would say Big Mom. Obviously, I got to make her stronger than Kaido. I would say Big Mom. He wins by 6. I guess is the natural number to use, and he'll be left with 5%. Okay, so that's how I think about Shanks when I pit him against these 4 Yonko. I'm not gonna do Blackbeard for now because I really don't know much about Blackbeard, but Let's just use this 4. Now, so this is against Kaido. Now, in terms of the losing end, when Shanks loses against Kaido, I'm also going to put Kaido's strength, right? So if I put Kaido's strength as 100%, so whenever he faces Kaido, he wins Kaido 7 out of 10 times with 10% left. Energy left, right? That means what I'm trying to say here, and this to me is a better gauge. Like what I'm trying to say here is that yeah, Kaido is strong as hell, right? He will only win 7 out of 10 times, but you know he's not as strong as Whitebeard because if Shanks were to fight Whitebeard, he would win 5 out of 10 times. So over here, Shanks would win Kaido 7 out of 10 times, but he would lose the remaining 3. So I'm not, yeah. So Shanks is not like a god that just slaps Kaido in the face and Kaido blacks out. Yeah, that would be like 100 and 0, 10, 0. So that would be what. That would be, I mean, too. It would be ridiculous, right? If someone says that, hey, you know what, Shanks wins Kaido, and he wins 10 out of 10 times, and he's left with 100% each time. It could happen, but I just don't see that happening. So I'm gonna say 7. He loses 3. He's left with 10% health bar, energy bar, and when he loses, Kaido is left with. I'm gonna use this character. Okay, he's left with when he loses. He's left with 5. Let's just use this for now. I'm going to use the same. I think they're pretty much on par. It's like a draw. I gotta be different because that wouldn't make sense if it's the same, exact same. Alright, fine. He'll win with 3%. And she will lose with. This is honestly hard. It's definitely above 2. Well, not all the case. Because now I'm thinking it could be the case that sometimes, like Big Mom, it could be that when she wins. I mean, when she loses, because this is in perspective of Shanks, right? When Shanks wins Big Mom, he wins just over the 0 mark, right? He just barely survives. But when Big Mom wins, she could win with a lot. I mean, let's just say there's something that happens when Big Mom wins. She's on the roll, like she becomes crazy and angry. She wins by much more than if she wins by much more than Whitebeard if Whitebeard were to defeat Shanks. So, oh, my math is up. My math is screwed up today. Let's say 10. I can honestly see that happening. Yeah, I don't think this would be a contradiction, because it would just mean that Shanks would win Big Mom 6 out of 10 times, but when Big Mom wins 4 out of 10 times, she wins by a higher margin than Whitebeard or Kaido, because somehow it takes a certain something for Big Mom to win. Let's say she I think honestly when Big Mom gets mad, she is super strong, super strong, like stronger than Kaido for sure, even stronger than Whitebeard, and probably stronger than Shanks. But it's just that it's not easy for her to get mad, like mad. Even that I believe there's different degrees of mad. So the mad I'm talking about is the mad when Luffy and gang were escaping from her, when they broke the family token, right? The necklace, the picture. So, but I say, okay, fine. If it's Big Mom, her normal self, then I would say she would lose by 4. So that's how I think about it. And now, if you're gonna do some math, so let's do the math here. What I want to say is that, okay, man, I'm really suck at probability, but let me give it a go. Let's say that I were to just multiply these. So this is his win, and then this would be his loss with a higher, this would be his loss, and that's just a lose. And then what I want to do is a net, where it will be, okay, let's see if this math makes sense. Right, let's just see if this math makes sense. If it does, then we can apply it to the other battles. But let's just focus on this one. I'm gonna do some tests. Hold on. All right. Net win. Net outcome, which can be okay. I'm gonna hold up a second. I'm gonna try experimenting and playing with these numbers, because now I basically, this is the most important figure here. So basically, the higher this goes above 0, the stronger Shanks is against Kaido, or whoever you pit against it. And the lower it goes, the weaker. Right? Now, let's just play this out. Let's say he wins 8 out of 10 times. Makes sense, right? So you can do this, I guess, and do it with a friend and ask him to run the numbers and say, hey, where do you have Shanks against Kaido? And if he says 7 out 0.7, right? Or this whatever 70%, but if he, let's just say 0.7, right? So if your friend says, you know what, we both agree Shanks would kick Kaido's ass, I have him at 0.7. Where do you have him? And if you think that Shanks will only win 7 out of 10, you say, you know what, 0.7 is a bit high for me. I would have him at about 0.55. Now, what that means is that your friend has a higher power spread when he's thinking Kaido versus Shanks, or vice versa, whereas you have a thinner power spread, which means what you're essentially saying is that either Shanks isn't as is that right? Yeah, either Shanks isn't as strong as your friend thinks, or Kaido isn't as weak as your friend thinks, right? So if your power spread is high, you're thinking either or, and Shanks isn't that, is stronger, or Kaido is weaker. And if your power spread is low, it's just the opposite, right? The opposite. So we have these. Whoops, I got a charge. Hold up a second. Right? And yeah, that's pretty much it. So, and that would make sense because, okay, let's look at this. Let's look at this. What's this called? These cells. If he won 7 out of 10 times and he was left with a higher energy bar, let's say you think that Shanks would win 7 out of 10 times and he'll be left with a 20%. Look at this. So it goes to 1.25. So honestly, I think just as a rough gauge, anything above 1, I think is pretty good. But I wouldn't say okay, maybe we can make this statement, right? I think it's a pretty fair statement to make. I do not think that any Yonko has a power ratio against more than one. Right? And I think this is a fair statement to make. So what I'm essentially saying is that no Yonko should have a power spread more than one. Right? Let's call it power spread. Now I'm not sure if the math is correct. I hope someone corrects me if I'm doing this spread wrong. It makes sense when I play the numbers, but there could be a different way, there could be a better way, there could be a more logical way. But I gotta use this for now. Now let's just go back to 10%. And if you think that Kaido would lose, and he would lose with less health remaining, 2%, right? So look at how the numbers change. Kaido is stronger, numbers go down, which makes sense, right? Because numbers go down because Kaido is stronger, right? Now Kaido, when he loses, he still loses only. He only has. What am I trying to say? Okay, when he loses, he still has 10% left. That would mean that Kaido is stronger, and we would see the spread go down. Right. If he loses, but he loses with less health remaining, meaning that Shanks really gave him a fight, and it wasn't just an easy sweep, then it would be probably, you can go with, let's say, 2%, and that would mean the power spread will be higher. There you go. But again, I don't think that any power spread between the Yonko should be more than one. That wouldn't make sense. During Whitebeard's time, again, after Whitebeard, Blackbeard is the wild card. Some people think that Blackbeard could easily have a power spread more than one against any Yonko. I've heard that from people in the community, but I think that's unlikely. But fair is fair. Everyone has their own opinion. This is mine. I hope you enjoyed the video. I shall be doing more analytics such as these, and probably some reactions. But yeah, I don't plan to sit in front of a camera and do reactions. I'm planning something else, which is where I draw a map of sorts, and I place the characters across the map and react as the characters move across the map. I'm not sure if that will work, but it's something I'm experimenting with. And that's it for now. Thanks for watching, and I hope you enjoy.